Hey, welcome to today's live stream. I'm going to be doing some fun stuff today with Portal, some work that I need to do on our app actually on Unifi. So we've got some new testing capabilities for integrations, which is really exciting. And today we're going to just build a front-end portal for that. I would be using UI Builder, but this is an app that's going to customers. So it's very much a case of this just needs to be done. We're using Service Portal. If you want to join along for the ride, then great to have you. So let's dive right in. All right, so I've done some previous stuff. In fact, I'm going to double check. Okay. So for those of you that don't know what Unifi is, essentially it's an integration platform that's built in ServiceNow. It's on ServiceNow. And it just allows you to connect integrations to and from ServiceNow and pretty much do whatever you want. Super powerful, and one of the new features that we've got is testing. So we've got this ability now to basically capture a test and give you a 99% reduction in your test time when you're upgrading Unifi, upgrading ServiceNow, releasing new updates and features to your integrations. So really cool. So what we've got here, we've got some test results here, and the point of what we're going to be doing today is actually printing these into a portal. Now I've already created a portal, and it is at, we go and find it because I've forgotten what I actually called it. I think it's Unifi Test. Let's go to that one. In fact, I can go up to here. I might as well give you a quick run through as you're here, and you can kind of see what we're doing. So this is the standard integration dashboard for Unifi, and we've got an operations portal. And today we're going to be working, as I say, testing portal. Now I've created this just as kind of a template to work with. Locked. Yes. Hey Phil, nice to see you again, mate. Done some upgrades to the old studio, or the old desk. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for noticing. Background music, super important. I need it. You need it. It makes it a little bit less awkward. So that should be good. All right. So what we're going to do. I actually got this kit. I've had this kit for years and years, but yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's dive into building some stuff. All I need now, Phil, is a green screen. I haven't got that yet, so you're gonna have to look at me, my office in the background there. All right. So where to start on this? So this is kind of, at the moment, this is a list of processes. And that's kind of where we want to start. So I've added some stuff in here. We've got active tests, so you can see for incident, we've got one integration, we've got a bunch of tests. So good stuff. So we've got a bunch of tests in here, and I'm going to just redo this layout and make it a little bit more pretty. So looking at the data that we're working with, we've essentially got some tests, and I'll come back down here and just run through it. So we've got integration tests themselves, and these are going to be kind of linked underneath the we've got the processes, we've got integrations, then we've got the integration tests that belong to those integrations, and then from there we've got results and all sorts of data that we basically want to bring up to the surface and show people. So just make it nice and easy to see. Whether or not we stick with this, I don't know. I'm going to basically smash this out, see what I can get done in about 2 hours, and go from there. So the first thing I want to do is make these into blocks. I don't really want them in these narrower cases. I want to make them kind of wider, because obviously this is a development instance that we use for building Unifi, and we've got loads of processes. The idea behind the processes is that your integrations align to your process. We've been talking about process-based integrations for years. that's basically what we do. So, you know, you've got your incident process. You're not building an integration to exchange data. You're building an integration for your process, and that's really, really important. So that's why process is kind of the top level here. As I say, we've already got this. This is a custom layout. Actually, it's worth mentioning as a custom portal. There's all of this is kind of hand built to be a single page application, and you can kind of see that by the SPA. Well, you can't see the SPA at the top, but there is an SPA at the top. So, and that's kind of all automatically generated. So let's go and jump into our dashboard. So we've got some widgets and stuff here. Got gazillions of widgets in this app, but you're only going to see the code from these. And there's some of this has been copied. So let's update the template, because that's what we're really interested in doing. I've got the data in here, and we can go from the template. If you've got any questions or anything, chuck them in chat. Or you want to see more of Unifi, then reach out at ShareLogic.com. We've got kind of a standard flex row thing going on here. I say I copy pasted this from the integration designer kind of portal, and this just needs to be switched over to basically be a bit more row-like. So I'm going to have to get my head around this a little bit, because I haven't looked at this for quite a while, so bear with me a second. So we've got all process. Excuse me while I'm yawning. A long day. Okay, so I haven't created any processes yet. Okay, here we go. So actually, so for each process, we're repeating the processes, and actually I think this is a row at the top here. I don't want this to be a row anymore. I actually want these to be rows. Yeah, so I've done it to that one already. I'm going to do it to this one as well. And then within this one, as I say, this is old CSS, so this is just going to be a col it's 12, so it's always a 12 wide. And this is kind of a directive that is built to automatically build permanent URLs for everything. So this is used throughout Unifi, or certainly the front end anyway. I think that is good enough for now. We've changed that. So let's save that and upload that. All right, and refresh. We should see something. Yes, it's completely broken. Fantastic. That's exactly what I was after. Not quite. Well, it's not completely broken. It's still there. Data's all there. So let's have a look at this. Basically, what we're going to see with this is my kind of thought process in how I kind of work through these things and look at the different elements, and how I basically debug everything live and kind of edit as I go and make decisions on the fly. I haven't even I've got an idea in my mind what I want this to look like. So this is going to be a very rough kind of final version once we get this done. But we'll come back over this and smooth it over. But it's part of the process, which is kind of fun. So we've got this, we've got the column there, which is looking great. We've got this inner, which is what we can click on, so that still works. Great. And now I think we need to just organize this a little bit better. So I think I might come back here and let's show you something else. So this is Whitefire. This is an app we built ages and ages ago for doing automated testing. In ServiceNow, we've got a bunch of things in here. I kind of want to copy this kind of layout, I think. So these are panels, and let's just go for that. I think it's nice because we've got all the numbers and specs being brought up. This is obviously testing. We're doing testing in Unifi, so it makes sense to kind of bring that across. So for that, I think we've got, let's go and just copy this. Oh, nice. Hello to the 5 people watching. How you doing? In a row, in a panel heading, all of that. Wait. The nice thing with this is we can just copy it. And then come in here and kind of plonk the whole thing in there. That is not necessarily that useful because obviously I've just got a load more garbage in here which I've got to clean up. So I think I might just delete this. I'll keep it actually because it is there, but obviously there's all this stuff here that I don't care about. So let's just get rid of that. Got a panel, we've got a panel heading in there. This is not great. Okay, let's ditch. I don't want the panel heading, but there's my actual panel title. Get rid of that. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this because this is not helping. This is one of those things where I think it's actually going to be quicker for me to, well, at least I'm going to know what I've done rather than trying to, you know, reverse engineer something and make it go back in. At least from this, I know what I need to build with this, but I'll just do it in sort of progression. I don't know, whoever joined me sort of 2 weeks ago, that was kind of my first live stream and sort of dove into Bootstrap 4. Very, very different to Bootstrap 3. Obviously, Bootstrap 4 is all flex based, whereas actually, we didn't even get into panels in Bootstrap 4. Maybe they're the same, but I've been doing this for years, so it's kind of a little bit easier to make sense of. I don't think I need that div yet. Let's just do the panel title. Thanks, Nicholas. Lost my train of thought now. Panel heading, I want the panel title, yeah, so I want that to be. And that's going to be my process name. That's my panel heading done, and then I want, don't think we're making the whole thing clickable, so that's fine. Then it's just into the panel body really. That's my panel layout that I'm going to keep, and then I just need to migrate all of this stuff in there. So I think yeah, don't forget to subscribe and like. Got to promote that stuff, haven't I? Yeah. The one thing that's interesting about this is obviously coming at this from the perspective of testing versus building, or building an integration. I need to think about what I actually want to show here on the dashboard, because this is going to be the first thing that people see when they come to this, and really you want a kind of a high level view of what's going on. I mean, ideally we'd have some charts and all sorts of cool graphics and that kind of thing. I'm not going to build that today because that's just time. The main thing with this is just getting something visible in that people can use, or we can use certainly, that gives us kind of that high level information that we're looking for here. So let's get on. Well, hey, 1 like. Thank you very much. We've got test specs passed. I think when we're looking at these tests, we're actually capturing a whole load of stuff in here, and the result itself is kind of going to be where we're pulling this information from. But obviously we can have multiple tests, so we've got to aggregate all of that data. But I think the most important thing is going to be how many tests have we run, I guess, and how many passed, how many failed. At the moment this kind of does aggregation up to the past. I'm not sure how important having specs is still a nice number. Right, let's stick with that layout there, and let's have the integration thing on the left. So we've got active integrations there, then we can have our tests and all of that kind of those specs there. I think that's just worth just copying over, which is this kind of block here. So that's kind of nice and easy. So I will copy and paste in some places, but I don't want to get into the weeds with that header. I'm an absolute stickler for indentation. I will literally sit here and do it. I know I could auto format it, but sometimes they don't work, and often it's just quicker just to do it myself. So yeah, there we go. And now we can just punch this in here. So let's pop these over, and I think this can all just go straight over to this one here. Might want to keep that timer go. Actually, this is a nice. Let me know, by the way, as well, if this font size is good, if I need to zoom in or anything like that. As I'm not watching it, so let me know if you need anything there. Essentially, I want that to go in there. What I was going to say was, yeah, the SN timer go. That's a great widget for getting a timestamp, and it basically takes the value from obviously your time field or your time element on your record, and then displays that in a nice format. So yeah, don't need that ng isolate scope. That's added by Angular. Hey Andrew, good to have you, man. What's interesting here is actually that time is added by the timer go, so we don't need that. And I think I'll just get rid of do some format. Food would be good too, yeah. Can't provide that, sorry. Okay, so what we've got here is we're just doing some standard Angular. If we've got integrations, we're going to show you how many we've got. If we haven't, we're going to say we haven't got any. So that's kind of good. Again, this, I think I'm just going to comment that out for now. I actually want to make the whole thing though. So Andrew, yeah, thanks for joining. Been a hot minute. It has been been weird, obviously with lockdown and everything. Haven't seen anyone for pretty much 2 years coming up on now. So it'd be good to get out of this and go and say hello to everyone properly face to face. But yeah, what I'm working on is Unifi, which is our integration app for ServiceNow. It's an e-bonding, ticket exchange, process-oriented integration application, specifically for connecting your processes together, connecting incident, problem, change, whatever you want. It can do anything in terms of what you want to send, but it's primarily for e-bonding. So that's where most of our customers get real value on that. And so what I'm working on is just we've added some new test capabilities to this, which I think is probably the first in the industry. We've got end-to-end bidirectional asynchronous integration testing, which is phenomenal, because I never thought we'd get here, to be honest. It is an absolute mental kind of scenario to try and resolve, especially when everything's running asynchronously across the platform. And obviously you've got other endpoints that you need to take into account and all sorts of other stuff. I could talk about integrations all day, what I do, but what I'm doing today is just building a little portal and having for the testing data to be shown up, basically, so we can see what we're working on. So yeah, so we've got active tests. Let's have a look at that's going to go in there. I'm not counting the specs yet, so that will stay there as is. And then we've got a integrations button there. I don't think we need that right now. We'll come back to that. I don't think we need any of this stuff here because this is all, I mean, it might be nice to have the drop down. Let's keep that in there, I guess. That is going to go in the header. And I think we'll pop that into something similar to what we've got up here, which is just a pull right. The pull right is basically doing a float and saying, I want you to sit on the right hand side of whatever is around me, and whatever is around it is the title. So I think I need the header for that as well. I didn't copy the undo. I don't think I copied exactly what I needed. Oh, that's the controls drop up. Okay. Redo. So I'll change all of these later, but I'm just trying to get the sort of basic framework in there at the moment. I've got my active tests, and I think now I can get rid of the rest of what I had from before. I'm probably missing some stuff here. Controls drop up, controls up. Oh, that's if there is no sysid, so that's fine. Get rid of that. And just get all of that, I think that's fine. I think see what that looks like. Okay, better. Got something at least. So we've got, obviously we've got a bit of an issue. I've got a duplicate header coming in. That's probably because I didn't remove the old one at the top. Yeah, I didn't get rid of this, so I added this in and I shouldn't have done. Okay. That needs. Yeah, so Andrew, this is our test portal, or what will be our test portal. I'm just building kind of a basic front end for it tonight and getting something in that we can use. And then obviously in future we'll look to improve this and would like to make this really fancy, but baby steps. So yeah, so we've got some tests in here now, which is cool. Obviously somehow we're passing 100%. I think that's a bit of a lie, but that's still working. That's great. Yeah, okay. This is our API name. So at the moment these two share. Well, this is the table actually, I think. I need to get that away. That's the target table. Why is that? That's interesting, that's showing up down there. Okay, because it's underneath there. All right. I don't think that's going to make too different. I don't know if I need a text here or not. See what text muted looks like. That's any. Okay, sweet. There's no, you can't click on anything on this at the moment other than this, but we'll come into that in a minute. So the next thing I need to do, I've got my tests. I need to, obviously I'm not getting 100% pass rate. That's something just to do with the way that that's being written. Yeah, because I'm looking for, this is the old stuff from Whitefire. So what I can say now is my process. And then I want to look at, I might as well just stick with the same variables. So whatever the pass rate is on there, text access process. Yeah, okay. So because this is null, it's printing that out. Okay, 100% the best. Yeah, I think I don't have a particular. I think everything has a way of being useful, doesn't it? There's I don't tend to stick hard and fast to specific ways of doing things. It's almost like every kind of scenario that I look at, let's have a look at what's the best way to do it. You know. So. In this case, yeah, don't need ng binding because that is makes managers happy. All right, so we've got, and then I think in here we just want this dot rate. Now, for those of you that are new to Angular or anything like that, putting these double dots in before you when you're printing a variable like we are in this case, that's basically going to cache this value. So Angular kind of basically loops through the same code over and over again as you've got the page open, and every time, if you don't put the dots here, it's going to basically say, I'm constantly going to be checking probably like 10-20 times a second if this value has changed. So we're not expecting it to change because we're just going to have it loaded. It might change in future, in which case we can come there. Hey Jace, how's it going, man? Good to have you, man. So yeah, if you don't need to have this value updating automatically because it's not dependent on anything in your page, use the double colons, and that will make things faster if you've got lots and lots of these things on the page. So that's kind of we just got to basically set up this pass rate now. What I'm going to do now is jump into I don't need to do anything in my client script. I've got a couple of record watchers here that we'll set up later. Basically, we'll come to those later. Potentially, if we have time, I'm going to try and keep this to 2 hours. So, yeah. Jace, people need to fill you in on the chat, man. People are going to be joining. I'll be getting distracted and spending 10 minutes every 5 minutes explaining what we're doing. Very quickly, we're building a portal for an integration testing dashboard for Unifi, which is our integration e-bonding app. So. Cheers, Phil. Okay, so we've got some. This is our kind of server-side script for the widget. I'm not going to run through what widgets look like or anything like that. There's loads of good content out there to go and figure that out. So if you don't know what this is the server-side code that is running for the widget that is rendering this portal dashboard. And we've got a bunch of things in here. So we're getting the process, we're getting the integrations, we've got getting the tests as well, and then basically combining all of that data into one data set that is then chucked to the client side, and then we're going to use that data to render all of this stuff here. So yeah. That's it, Jace. All in caps, all the time. So what I've set up is I need to just make sure it's my dollar pass rate. The reason I do this, by the way, we don't necessarily have to do it here, but if we're augmenting kind of something that should be a glide record, for example, in this case, a process is representing a record. I don't know that we are here actually. The process kind of, it does represent the record, but it's not using an SP-get record kind of call there to get the actual glide record as an object. But if we were doing that, I'd use the dollar just as a kind of prefix to say this is a machine added, or it's a custom kind of variable that we're adding to this object. It's not something that was generated by whatever function generated that one there. So yeah. So on the pass rate, we need to go and fetch that. And that means fetching all the tests. So I've already got a function here that's getting the tests. Obviously that's what's generating our count. So I need to now basically get the test results from the last runs. Okay. So I think we're going to need the individual pass rates for the individual tests. and then we're going to need to have just be notified. Jace, thanks for that, man, on Twitter. Okay, so basically everything's going to roll up. I think, yeah, forgive me for being slow on this. I'm normally quicker, but obviously there's a lot going on here, and talking to people and stuff makes it fun and interesting, but sometimes I get a little bit lost. So getting back to it, so we've got the pass rate that we need to capture. The pass rate is going to be based on the integration result, test result here. So we've got our we've got the total number here, we've got the number that are passed, and then basically we can use that to say, if I get 22 out of 22, that's 100% pass rate. So that's kind of where we're going with that. But I need to fetch my integration test results, and I only want the last test result for a test, because the test obviously can run loads and loads of times, and yeah, we just want to see that. So do you know what, while I'm here, I'm going to generate a and run this integration test. We've got a whole load of scenarios in this one. I think this one is now pretty much passing. This is basically captured. We'll run something in production, for example, if we want to capture a production integration test for all of the scenarios that happen with an incident or anything, and then we can generate this test off the back of that. And obviously we've got all of the things that happened to that over the integration captured here. And now all I need to do is hit run. That's going to generate a new test result, and now that's going to be updating. Don't know if you'll be able to see this, but then basically just churning through everything. Okay, we've got a failure here, which is meaning it's skipping the rest of the stuff, but obviously this is in development. So that's the idea anyway, taking all of this stuff, and what would take someone an hour literally takes 30 seconds. You just click a button. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, so handle condition BR. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, a glide record, we often do kind of an augmentation of a record like current, because it's a JavaScript object and you can pass values around on it. It's just a really useful way of passing things from one place to another. Obviously, I wouldn't be careful doing this, because you can not necessarily muck anything up, but you can definitely confuse people if you don't document it properly. So, you know, if you're augmenting an object because you're trying to pass a value around, just make sure that you know exactly, and everyone else knows actually, not just you know, make sure everyone else knows what you're doing and why you're doing it. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Use the dollar. Well, I use the dollar anyway. Angular does the same thing actually. They'll use the double dollars for it's kind of machine added variables on stuff. So yeah, exactly. That's the other reasons. By using the dollar, it's definitely not a field. You know, and that's kind of it's just a very visible, like, okay, what is this? It's clearly not a field. You're not going to have someone hunting the dictionary and figuring out what is going on there. So yeah. Yeah, a lot of the and one thing as well I'll point out here is I have a different way of coding to, I think, a lot of people coming into ServiceNow. So a lot of people will write variables as, you know, for this one is like empty process. They'd call it empty process with a camel or snake case. I do the basic, I can't remember what this one is now, is it? Underscores between, I'm not going to go into all of it, but it's very deliberate and it makes it very easy for me to pick out exactly what something is. So by doing all lowercase with underscores, I know that that's a variable, and I could just see that anywhere and I know it's a variable. That works kind of good that way. And then if I'm doing functions, that's where we'll do the adopt a snake case or whatever that is. Not camel case, is it? Or is it camel case? No, that is camel case. Snake case is this one here. Anyway. And then I'll get loads of comments all like, don't do that, but each to his own. The main thing if you're with standards is that you follow them as you need to. Don't try and, if you're working with some software that Yeah, exactly. If you're working with variable formatting, wars will start now. Yeah, definitely not looking to get into a variable formatting war. This is very much kind of a personal preference. It's a developed preference. It's from, I've been coding for like 20 years now. That is pretty mental. So I've used every convention in the book, and what I do now is one that basically I've made up that works for me. Like, so, but if I was going to come into a company and I saw that they were doing a different formatting, then I'd follow that, because it's better to follow what is already in place than it is to try and, hijack or push your own stuff in and then confuse everyone. So consistency is key, absolutely. Variable naming conventions. I think you could spend a whole day talking about that, and still everyone would disagree with each other, but the main thing is consistency. So anyway, let's get to this. So we know we need to get our pass rate. We're going to pass our pass rate up to the process. So what we can do here is add that pass rate onto here. So you can see I don't necessarily need to use the dollar here, because it's basically my own object that I'm constructing. And why am I calling it pass route? It's pass rate. And so that's going to be 0 for now, and we'll fill that later. And in fact, actually, I don't think I want to do this here, because I think we're doing this later on anyway. So when we're constructing, right, here you go. So this is kind of the method that brings everything together. So I want to define it in here. Right, this is where the augmentation comes in. I'm setting that, and I'm going to do the same. So for each process, I'm mapping a process. For each integration, I'm mapping that integration as well. So integration dot pass rate 0, and then basically we can calculate that later on. And so here, integration dot tests, active tests plus plus. Try and honor the existing code. Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. If I'm going to go to a customer's site, or work on some customer code, or work on another person's project, it's definitely best to honor the code that the formatting that they've done, unless it honestly is so terrible. In which case, you are going to want to do the whole lot and just say, but with them, don't do it as a learning exercise if it really is terrible. Or just take it on and don't even worry about it, So, yeah. Obscure acronyms that only make sense to the person at the time they wrote it. Yeah. Honestly, that is... So you'll notice throughout all of this, everything is very verbose. I've been... Just rewrite the code, yeah. I've been down the route of doing the crazy acronyms, doing really short things. And again, it all comes back to actually the way that I write code now is very much based on the context, and I'm not gonna start the GR conversation here. I'll just mention it very quietly, but we're not going into that. But I'll concede on that. It's fine. Yeah, essentially, you want to be able to come back to this in 5-10 years time and read it and understand exactly what you're doing. So there is no reason why I would need to call this, integ. It doesn't. There's absolutely no reason. I've got IntelliType. Just basically, yeah. I think the only reason I think, and I've come across this as well before, is for not being verbose, is almost coming up with a decent enough name for what you're putting in there. So if I don't know what I'm going to call it, I might assign it something either extremely verbose or just something really small, but with a view of, as I'm writing the code, I will go and replace that interim variable I've called it with something that makes sense and is contextual and and will be helpful in future. So taking a few vowels out never hurt anyone. It hurt the vowels, didn't it? They're just, where are they gone? I'll do that here, isn't it? That no. We're not taking vowels out. But again, you do you. Whatever makes sense for you. This just to me, kind of what I do. So you do you, I'll do me. Okay, so we've got very slow progress here. So we've got pass rate is 0. I'm going to have a quick drink. And so we've captured our tests, but what we actually need is our test results. So I think for the test results, we can actually do, obviously the test results are going to be per test. So this is where it could get a bit hairy and I'll have to refactor later on, but I don't really care right now. So get test results, or actually get latest test result in this case. So because I don't care about all of them, I just want the latest one, and I'm going to give it a test, and it's going to return probably an object or something. So normally I'll do proper JS doc essentially for documenting all of the code everywhere. It's super helpful to do that both for you and for anyone that comes and looks at it, because you understand what you're writing and everyone else understands what you're doing as well without having to read the code. And obviously that can feed into documentation and other things as well. I think what I would say on this as well is sometimes, in fact I've done this a lot, is if you're building code that's complicated, write a skeleton of all your functions but don't actually write anything in your functions. So with this git test, I just write git tests and then define my JS doc at the top and write down what I want that function to do. And just the act of doing that just clarifies what it is it's going to do. It sort of makes you ask questions as to, well, do I actually even need this function? Is this function overloaded? All sorts of stuff. So definitely would say that. I'll normally add these in as I'm prototyping. I'm not going to do it right now, but it's still good to do. Yeah, so you can do pseudocode as well, flowcharting, all sorts of stuff. We normally design all of our code outside of any code, so it'll be a full-on flowchart. This is how everything links together, and then we'll work backwards from there. And in fact, with a really nice sort of story on that, which I think I've shared at Knowledge as well, is we spent 3.5 hours in the pub designing or coming up with the kind of theory of how this new feature was going to work. It's quite a big feature actually, and we then spent probably half a day designing it and mapping everything out. I then spent 2 hours building it. It was probably a good 1,000 lines of code, and it worked first time. We just put it in, bam, everything worked, and it worked exactly how we wanted it to. No debugging. We could kind of a bit of a pinch. I don't think it's ever happened since, but it is possible to actually build something to spec and have it work first time. So hashtag goals, I think there. Anyway, right, let's get my GR game out. The one thing with building scoped apps is they always want you to use glide record secure, and that's obviously using ACLs so you don't have to worry about it. If you do glide record, then that's bypassing all the ACLs, so that's, in theory, it's less secure. Depending on what you're doing, sometimes you have to use glide record over glide record secure, but in this case, the person viewing the portal is going to have access to those records anyway, so it's not a problem. I think this is called integration test result, and I think the test it's going to be called test, I think. So that is going to do that, and if gr.next, I'm probably going to give it some stuff there that I'm going to return, otherwise I'm just going to return undefined. So one thing I want to do here is order by, I think, descending, yeah, just created on, because I want the last test that ran even, so that should do that. A nice thing that I can do here is I'm going to take this. In fact, I can probably just punch this whole thing out. What I'm going to do is go and actually find my test over here. and use explore. There's my test record, and that is what I'm getting. This is an integration test. Give it a touch. And that is what I'm querying here. Now what I can do, test this in here, get in test result, gr, let's see what happens. So, okay, so instantly that's worked. I don't know what it is. If I didn't pass anything in there, I passed, let's not even do that. Just remove that. Okay, it's still gonna work. Interesting. Probably because, I don't know yet, but we'll figure that out later. Okay. So now we've got our test result. In fact, let's do this in the Unifi scope as well, because that's where it's going to run. If we hit any issues with scoped APIs, we can sort of mitigate that, because we're going to see all the errors come up in here. And I think that's fine. Integration test results. That's the last one that ran. I think it's probably worth just pulling the number out so I can see what actually is there. So let's just do number value. Get value is another great one for discussion, I think. Nice. There you go. So there's a bug that we picked up. Scope blind record called on an incompatible object. If anyone can see what's going on here, by all means chat. Pretty sure that's fine. Yep. Is my table legit? Yeah, it might not be. That's exactly. But it should throw an invalid table error if that's the case. But integration test result. Yeah, so that is the table. It's probably, I wonder if it's this is where we can debug this. So you're going to get to see try against global. Yeah. Use the table search function. I know what it's called though, because I can go to the record and just pull out the URL. What's interesting is that that's working there. So if I do, maybe it is wrong. Try against global, see if there is something. Yeah, I could do it in global. Well, wonder if it's that. Oh. So, a nice trick in here, by the way, if you do use Explore, which you should be if you're not using it. Come on. It supports Sublime key map, so that's personal choice because I use Sublime still. Yes, I'm one of those people. If you do Control and then /, it can automatically sort of comment stuff out for you. Kind of handy. You can do Control D, which allows you to select the same thing across there. You can do a bunch of other. Control Shift D does duplication. It's cool. So there's a lot of cool stuff in there for that. Just means you can use it like a text editor. Using Spawner. I know you don't use it, Andrew. You do need it. You'll find a reason to use it. Okay. Let's just pull this out. Let's open this one. So that works. I'd run that in Unifi. That works. If I do glide record secure, that works. Well, okay, so not entirely sure what's going on here, but it's fine. I actually have. I was missing new, guys. I was missing new. There you go. All right. Probably no one saw that. Got there in the end anyway. Yeah, I get it, Andrew. SN utils is great. We install it with. We ask if we can install it with everyone that we're working with. It makes life so much easier. But yeah, all depends on what you're doing with it, really. You know, like I say, we do a lot of coding and debugging and stuff, so this really helps especially in scenarios like this. Okay, so I think that's fine. So what we need to do now is just build this out. So obviously we're not getting anything there for some reason. Okay, so I think we know this test works. Integration test. So I reckon what I've got wrong is this. Yep, it's called integration test. Okay, not test. Lovely, there we go, and it's working. And we've sort of proven there as well, if this is invalid, it's not going to return anything, which is exactly what I want. So I normally do, there's a bunch of ways obviously you can return things from functions. I kind of like to do, if I'm asking it for something, it gives it to me unless there's an error, in which case it just doesn't give it to me. It raises the exception itself if there is one. And it will just give me undefined back. And that way it's very easy just to say, you know, my result is that. And if I have a result, then do something with it. And it's just a nice clean way to keep everything there. I don't want to raise an exception here if there's no result necessarily. Sometimes I would, but more often it's, you know, you're passing in invalid data into the function, so it's not able to do its job. So I need to make Explore work with 15 plus-ish instances a week. Okay. Alright, so we've got the number there. Let's actually, might as well just carry on with this while we're here, because the nice thing about this obviously is we can just continue to build this out until we get the kind of data that we're after here. So I've got my number and I want to confirm, so that's 1141. And 1141 is what I was after, so perfect. I know there's a list in here, so I'm getting the right one. And now I'm just going to get the total and the passed and calculate my pass rate. So let's do total. I get value total and passed. Could you use a try catch, Kevin? You'll have to elaborate what you mean by that. So, I mean, you can absolutely use try catches. Oh, sorry, I see what you were saying. So, on around something, if you're testing it, absolutely. That depends on how you want to kind of build it, essentially. Because if I'm doing try catches, I would definitely use them, but there's often times where they can kind of just complicate everything, because you know you could basically say that every function that you write throws its error. In which case, if you do that, then everywhere you're writing other code that's using it, you're having to use a try catch, and so you're basically expanding that for not necessarily what, you know. There's time and a place, and I think as with everything that's come up sort of 3 times in this conversation already, is there's a time and a place and there's context. So if it makes sense to use a try catch and to throw your errors, go for it. If it doesn't, maybe don't bother, you know. Cool. Okay, so that's that. Gonna finish out these. We got passed. I think these are all just. We tend to keep the label the same as the. Might just capture all of these actually. Pass, failed, pending, warnings. And just do that. So, pass, failed. So one thing that's cool about this as well is this. The test runner in the background here is Jasmine. So this is why it kind of looks like Jasmine essentially. What we've got here as well though is this nice extra feature which we've added in, which is warnings. And what that means is when we hit an issue with a test, we can kind of point it out as not a failure, but something to go and check. Because obviously integrations are so complicated, but yeah, that's all right, Kevin. No problem coming late. Great to have you. But the point is, anyway, with the warnings that, you know, it's something you want to check, but it's not going to fail the test. So it's kind of, when you're running these things, there's always going to be something that you want to go and look at, and that's where these warnings come in. So we'll bring those out later as well. Now all I need to do is that. Great, okay, so that looks good. So what I might want to do here is actually just parsing all of these. Parsing for a long time, especially working with XML, was a nemesis of mine. And for those of you who don't know, parseInt can take 2 parameters. So it by default works with decimal, but if you put an X in front of a number, it will treat it as hexadecimal. And I wrote an XML integration like 9-10 years ago in ServiceNow, didn't even realize this, and had absolutely shed loads of issues. So then for ages after that, I was constantly writing it's base 10. There's parseInt, base 10, decimal, that's great. You can put whatever kind of base you want in here and it will parse it to that. But just be aware of that. If you're ever working with something that may be text, and you want it to always be decimal, that you put in that second parameter. Otherwise it can cause headaches galore, and you won't understand why your numbers don't add up. Well, I don't know why I'm writing these, but yeah. Okay, so let's double check then. Lovely, so we've got all our things there. Yeah, you could use plus or number as well, yeah. Okay, and I don't know if I want to pass rate. Yeah, let's just calculate the pass rate here. Might as well. This is where kind of having a temporary object kind of makes sense. And then I can just do temp.parseRate equals temp. Which way around is it? Passed? No, it's failed over passed. No. Temp.passed over total. Yeah, so Jay's, you always use both params on parseInt. Yeah, I did it for ages, using both params, and it's sort of, I think that's one of the great things about code, is you can learn things and change the way you work slightly, and maybe things that you thought were super important at one point are actually not that important going forwards. As you understand how the code works properly, or more, you know, you can change your mind on things. So that's good, isn't it? I've got 2. So I've omitted a vowel there for you, Phil. There's no E in my temp. So we've got a pass rate of 85 or 0.0085. I probably want to do times that by 100, just to give us a percentage, and then we can do a round on that as well. Or I think there is another way to do it, but I think, which one is it? Or is it not round? Why is it not failing? Because I'm writing it. Is it? Float. Thank you. Maybe it's not float. I remember. Floor. No, it's not. I'm not looking. No, I'm looking to do JavaScript. Pass float. I don't want to do that. Completely emptied my head. I'm not even going to worry about it right now. Someone can figure it out, remember what it is. That'd be great. So it's 85.5% anyway. Does floor take a second parameter? No, it's only one. It's only got one arity on it. So no, okay, it's not float, is it? Got to figure this out now. 2 fixed. Thank you, Jace. Yes, that is exactly what I meant. So 2 fixed allows you to put it to a fixed length of decimal. Well, apparently, or is it just 2 fixed? No. Interesting. You 2 fixed that for me, yeah. Except it's not working. What's going on? Oh, it's number.2 fixed. Absolute brain fart, but yeah. So what we can do is, we know that's a number. Pretty sure it's a number. 2 fixed. 1. There we go. There's our 85.5. But unfortunately it's a string, so that's okay actually. Yeah, it has to be, doesn't it? So yeah. Cool. Yeah, so this is the number of places after the decimal you want to have. So if I wanted 2, then I get 85.52. I'm not interested in that. So interesting. Having done all of that, I probably do want to have it just rounded, but let's just do it as that for now. We've done it. So still stuck on the comma on line 18. Ah, right. Thank you. Yes. So that is just ECMA 5 supports additional commas. ServiceNow doesn't always like it. So I think ECMA 3 will fall over on it, but it's kind of one of those. Commas are kind of, there's a lot of weird things around commas in JavaScript now, especially if you look at the other kind of variations of JavaScript as well. But yeah. Yeah, thanks, Trace. It will show a warning, but it does work, yeah. Sometimes it doesn't though, but you just have to watch it. If I'd have pasted this in and run it in Portal, it probably would have failed, but there you go. Okay, so we've got our test results there. That's great. I've got my pass rate. I think I've got all of the numbers that I might ever need here. So now I can copy my function, come back into here, plonk it in there. And now we can do my test. So here's my test. Maybe I want to put it into here. Maybe let's just call it last result. And yeah, and then that is going to give us our last result for each test. And then while we're looping through our tests, down here, we've got our integration tests in there, test for each. So now I can actually start to bump this up. So you can see I'm already bumping up the active tests. So actually it's going to be a pretty easy case of just doing integration.pass rate equals test. I think that's right. Yep. Test.pass result. In fact, do I want? I don't know if I care about that being on there. You know what? I'm going to leave it on there anyway. It's just, we're going to have a super multi-dimensional array. So test.last result dot pass rate, and I want to add that onto the process map as well. So basically I'm rolling it up to there and there. So then I want to add, no, I don't want the pass rate on there. That needs to be an aggregate. Interesting. So for that, I'm probably going to want to basically do all of the tests and then run through and aggregate all of the pass rates up. If I do the pass rate there, there's probably an easy way to add the value to an already value. Yeah, so on the process itself, well, the process has got all of the integrations on it, so I don't even need to do this right now. So what we'll do is, when we come out of this, we can now do a processes again and loop through all of the yeah. If we loop through all the processes, we can find all the integrations. Just work it. Yeah, exactly. Just work it out once it's finished. So now I can do I think figuring out how I've got this process.integrations. So I can do. I know the length of that. So process pass rate equals. And then we basically want a number to divide by that length. So total equals. I think what we can do here is a reduce on the array. So I think the reduce it'll accumulate, yeah. That's pretty cool. So what we can do with that, let's just do a quick test with this. Don't think I need this anymore. Let's just copy. Might as well just copy that. But no, because this is all latest stuff. So using for each on an object is an anonymous function. So do you need to handle this to get the variable back out? Not necessarily. So, well, yes. If you're calling this within it, obviously this is now referring to the new function. So what I would normally do in that case is outside. Just rewind slightly. If I'm calling this in here, just while we're there. So this here will actually be whatever the scope is in this function, whatever the context is there. Out here it's different. So if you want to pass this scope into here, you just need to assign it another variable. Normally it's something like self, and then you'll just do self dot whatever. So yeah, that's all you need to do there, is just pass in that. You can also do different things with like calls, or you can do bind as well. I don't know if that does work in this, but you could do bind this on there, and then that will apply that scope to it. I haven't tried that for a long time, so I don't know if that still works, or works the way that I'm thinking it works right now, but it's definitely a thing. So anyway, so we've got the process.integrations.reduce, and I think what we can do in here is pass in a function, and what we're going to be able to do there, we've got the accumulator and the current value. So the current value we're going to pass in. So basically we've got our total is being passed in there, and then the object, the actual integration, is being passed in as the second value, I believe. And then we're going to start with an accumulator of 0. So then we're going to do total plus equals integration dot pass rate, isn't it? I think that will give us what we're looking for. So just to try that out, I could just upload it, but I'm just going to double check that with explore. So let's just do a quick array, do a couple of objects in here, and then do pass rate 50. Yeah, thank you. I probably do need to return total. Thanks. Then lovely. So yeah, should be named total pass rate. We could do that. Yep, we could go that. Okay, so it still works. So we can just return that. But you can just, okay, so you can just return. So every time you return a value from here, that is being set as the new accumulator. So that's all we need to do. I think as long as I understand my objects correctly, that's there. You know what, I could even just avoid all of that and just do that. In fact, no, because I'm not doing silly. Right, the total pass rate for fill. The total pass rate over the number of integrations, and that's going to give us our average. What are you stopping, Jace? Alright, so that's there. Let's sync that. So if you're interested, obviously I'm using Sublime here. I actually have VS Code open on another screen. So I just punch this open to the folder for VS Code and then hit sync project every time I want to update. Nice and easy. Keeps me in Sublime. That's my preference. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. Fail. Cannot read property pass rate. Okay, line 143. Interesting. So that's undefined. So I'm not doing result. Oh no, because if there isn't necessarily always a last result, is there? So if we not 0, is you already integrated with ServiceNow? No, so this is, well, it is, but it's kind of circular. So I use the VS Code plugin, the ServiceNow sync, whatever it's called, for VS Code, but I prefer Sublime as an editor to VS Code. I've been using it for decades. So it's just where I work better. So I open the folder or the project created by VS Code in Sublime, edit everything in here. Then when I save on here, I just hit sync project in VS Code. I've literally just got a tiny little window open on another screen that I can then use. So yeah, that is my roundabout way of doing things. Honestly, I could have done tons of different ways of doing it. I know everyone's got all their own different ways of uploading stuff. I know there's probably half a dozen, if not more, different synchronization tools that have come out over the years from loads of good people, good developers out there. I've just never. I've spent a little bit of time getting them set up, but when you sort of move to a different computer or do something else or whatever, it's kind of just a pain to keep it there. So, you know, old habits die hard, I guess. But anyway, look at this looks good. It looks like we've got something at least. So these are all zeros. 93.2. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I assume it is. The one cool thing I guess I can show here as well, you aren't aware of this. I use Chrome Developer Tools all the time, and what we can do, which is nice with Angular, is come into this, have a look at this value here, click on it. If I pull this open, this may well be a plugin, but we can actually dive into the Angular object itself. So we can see, here's my process, here's the integrations on it. So this is obviously, this is the object that I constructed on the server. So we can see the values that are inside. Active tests 15, okay, yeah, that's there. And then we can see all of our different tests. That's all nice. So if you're trying to debug something, you know, this is a really useful thing to do. Like I said, I can't remember. I think it may well be an AngularJS Chrome plugin, but it could be just part of Chrome. I can't remember. Cool. So I'm a little bit dubious that this is 100%. So I'd like to just check that and see what that looks like. Got 2 active tests. Do we actually have a... Okay, so there is a last result there. Pass rate was 0. Okay. There's something wrong with our numbering there. So actually that should be 50. So why is that? Interesting. There's our pass rate of 100. We look at the code again, and total pass rate, process integrations length. I think that's right. We know our total pass rate, or we don't know if our total pass rate is going to be 100. Could be over 2. So it should give us a pass rate of 50. So something's not quite adding up there. So I don't know. Probably the easiest way to debug this is probably just chucking this on there. So why how funny is that? Our integration length is 1. And our total pass rate is 0, 100. Okay, so that's okay, right. So this comes back to, knew this was going to bite us. When we're making this it's not a number basically. When we're doing the to fixed, it's converting it to a string. So let's get rid of to fixed. Let's leave that as that right now. And then when we come down here, we can then convert that. To fixed there if we want to. To broken, exactly. I'm not sure why the integration's length is less. That seems a little bit strange. Because if we look at... Well, what's interesting though is, no, we do only have 1 integration in here. Of course we do. So why have we... What am I missing here? Active tests is 2. Right, okay, so this is because for this one... No, that doesn't make any sense either. So that is right. So there's 2 tests. This is where you get into kind of an complex stuff. So this integration, this first integration has 2 tests apparently. Let's go and have a look at that. So this is the Unifi incident. When it's got loads of tests. What are we assigning to tests here? Test equals get test. I'm getting the I'm not entirely sure. I'm probably going to leave that for this because this will be a weed dive, and I don't really want to get into a weed dive. We'll just, these numbers are right and they're great, and we'll move on. So I think anyway, that's really helpful. So the next thing we want to do is dive into what happens when we click on this. So if I click on here, obviously I haven't got anything to click on at the moment, so it'd be good to make that into a clickable thing. How do I want to do that right now? I think we'll come back to these later. I probably will change that completely. But what I'm probably going to do, I need something to be clickable here. It could be the whole thing. Could do the whole thing. Let's just do it as the active integrations. I think that's going to then take us to the next thing. So come back to our UI, integrations. We can now change this. We don't care about that. And we can do a phref equals, I think, trying to think what the process is. I think this is why I shouldn't have undone everything earlier, because that was working. Okay, so bear with me a second. Undo. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, that is what I want. And then redo everything. How many people do this? Am I the only person to do this ever? This is why I love history. Okay, there we go. So that's our process, and that should make that clickable. Change that P. Like I say, this is I said at the beginning anyway, this is a template from the actual integration designer that we've got. So if I pop that open, what we started with was something that looked like this. And if I click on this, it's kind of dynamically loading the actual integrations that we have within here. I just wanted to change that for the testing front. So I've kind of copied that. And testing center. There we go. So there's my, might just have a think on the color scheme here, but there we go. So if I click that, yes, it's working. Great. So now I've got kind of a nice, you wouldn't normally have this many processes at the top level, but even if you do, it's not a bad shout, is it? If I can look at my incident process and say, here's all the tests that we've got across all of our incident integrations, and we've got 100% pass rate, I mean, golden. So the next thing we want to do is look at the individual integrations. I think I'll probably stick with the tiles for this, just because you can have a lot of integrations. I mean, the people that use this are MSPs, and we don't have anyone using it with 200 integrations, but you could potentially have 200 integrations in here for one process. You know, if you've got 200 customers and you're an MSP and they're all using ServiceNow, you're using ServiceNow, bam, you've got 200 integrations connecting to each, you know, e-bonding for each of those customers. So it's important that we just sort of keep that in mind. I think that's good. That's going to obviously configure the integration. Don't need to do. And so basically that is now showing us a different view in the same widget. We're not loading any additional widgets here. This is actually done down here. I think, yeah. So that is what is being shown here. So for each integration in the process, so when we click that button, we're actually setting the process on the client and saying, use this process. That's in our controller. And then we're going to link all of the integrations for that. We do have a search term that's not in operation yet, so we'll ignore that. And I don't want it to go to messages, but we'll come back to that. That's fine. So I think what we want to copy here is probably some of what we've got out here. So we've got the number of tests, number of specs. In fact, specs is 0, so we probably want to put that first. I'm going to get rid of this. It doesn't matter. And we just need to do the spec. Similar thing to what we did earlier. So there's our pass rate all rolling up for that. And I think from this we can then also do, we don't need these anymore. Done. think, in fact, is that going to work? Yes, that is going to work. Might not be the correct. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We've got the number of specs on, or the spec in this case is Jasmine lingo for the test. So we've got the total number of tests here, and that is on our test result. So the last result dot total from our test. Interesting. In fact, we don't even need to do that because it's just a count, so we don't even need to do that here. We can do that for each test. The integration is going to have a spec as well, and the process is going to have a spec count. And then we're going to roll that up. So from here, we can do this thing again. I could be efficient, or potentially kind of efficient, and assign this to a variable, but I don't care in this case. It's not. This isn't actually too tedious doing a lookup by that. We can do spec count plus equals test dot total. I think that should then pass that up, and then we want to do that for the integration as well, actually. So that's basically rolling that number of tests up to the top. Then we've got the spec count in there. What I'm going to do here as well is copy. We've got process active test. That can make that to a cached version as well, and then we can add that into our active tests as well. So we've got active test, integration of active tests, and then I think things going off. Okay, so total tests. So if you don't know, this is actually doing kind of a gs.get message call here. So we don't technically support multilingual scenarios. We kind of do, but it's not official. So kind of best practice just to put that in there, and then if you ever need to, you've already done it. If you wanted to change that to a foreign language using ServiceNow's native language support, and you can. And we're going to do integration dot. In fact, we should add that in there as well. In fact, so the reason these are not cached at the moment is because the portal that I've copied it from is obviously a fully single page app. So, and because we're using record watchers on there, that can be updated at any time. You could just be literally sitting there watching it, and the new count will come up, or the new data will come up anyway. So probably want to think about that. I'll leave it as is for now for those. Not a big deal. But in fact, no, sorry, that's the active test. This is the So we've got a slight difference here. So what I'm thinking here, basically the test, we've got the test in the actual Jasmine test itself, or the spec, which is kind of the actual thing that's doing the test. If I have a look into one of these, have a look at the result. So this ran, we've got a scenario for a create incident message, and within this, in fact, I haven't shown you this yet, so here you go. This is kind of the output. So we've got all of these tests going on. So each one of these is a test. So in here, we've got 58 of them running. There's a whole load more stuff going on behind the scenes as well. But yeah, essentially that's where that's coming from. So I just want to get this count in there, but actually this is also a test as well, in a sense. So just having that difference. I think this is just the spec count, which I might rename that later, but for now that'll do. I can't remember, was there something else that I wanted to do there? I don't think so. But it's on the integration level, and it's on the let's just call that spec count. Or these are the actual integration tests. Call them unit tests for now. Probably not quite a unit test, but kind of is. Okay, so project. Chat is very quiet right now. You're either all really bored and fallen asleep, or you've walked away. Apparently, I've got 8 people, so thanks everyone for sticking around. Good times. Integration. Okay, so we haven't got any unit tests there. We haven't got any specs on these either. Okay, so something's gone wrong there. Have a look. Process. Test. Our spec count is null. Okay, I probably haven't set it, have I? Integration. Good stuff doing courses on Learning Portal. Better than me. So my spec count is being set there. I think it's just not being set. Integration spec count equals 0. So I am setting it. Maybe it's test.total. Oh, it's test.last result, isn't it? The same thing again. Okay, so in this case, I think it's probably just better to just do a, if we have a last result, then let's just add stuff where we need to. I think actually that's fine, and then I can do, so this is for each test. I'm going to get its integration. In fact, I only want to update that as well. Sweet. See if that works. Probably doesn't, but there you go. There you go. Fantastic. That's pretty mental, isn't it? We've got 1,029 specs. Across 15 tests, obviously, but I'm pretty sure there's more than that, actually, but that seems low. Okay, fair enough. So we've got 145 in here. Yeah, okay, that does kind of make sense. But I think, okay, the reason is because the rest of them have failed, because we're still working on this actually being a thing, but we've got the count in there, so that's cool. So from the top end, we've got how many are passed, how many specs we've actually run. Again, we might rename that. And then unit test 129. Okay. I'm not sure why. It's interesting that specs count is different to what's inside it. We've got one integration, 151 on the spec count. This comes back to there being 2 tests. I don't think there should be 2 of these in here. I'm not sure why. We've got 1, the 3172, 3132. So that is the one that should be there. We've actually got a pass rate of 22. There needs to be some work doing on this, but anyway, like I said, I'm not going to try and figure that out right now. Now when I click this, I want to go into a further kind of deep dive into what the test was, I think. And that is basically, so what we've worked down to here is essentially this kind of level. I know which integration I'm on. I mean, this is kind of Unifi incident. Then we've got the actual test that's run. So this is kind of the last test that's run. So this is what needs to be rendered. I think what I might do now is basically just display this in a nice way. So let's get this up. So what we're going to need to do now, you could obviously build multiple widgets for this, but I think in this case just easier because I'm already in this widget. Break it out later if we need to. We'll do the same thing as we've got here. So we've got a process, and actually if this is if c.process, that will show. So now what we want to do is, and there is no c.test result. So that's going to be our current test result. I'm just making this up on the fly. So yeah, we don't want to be creating a new integration here. You may, no, we don't need that, I don't think. Would it hurt to leave it in there? Probably not. So now this one is going to show if there is no process, but there is a test result. And what I want to do is when I click on this button, you see we're doing this. Well, actually, I just want to do test result equals, and I want it to be the integration. Okay, it's going to be integration, then I'll get the latest test result from that. Let's do that instead. So when we click that, that's going to be picked up, and when we do our client script, basically we've got the search change. So this is all like custom stuff that's been written, but essentially if the current content equals previous content, then we're going to stick to that. And we can do c.select integration, or do we want to do just do select test result? That's what we're really interested in. So this basically, the way that this works is current and previous is to do with the URL. Like I say, I won't go through this in detail, but essentially process is the URL parameter for process. Integration is going to be the URL parameter for integration. So that is going to be the value I'm assigning it in here. And then we just need to create a function to do that. So c.select test result function. You'll notice I'm writing double here. This makes debugging in some cases extremely helpful because you don't get an anonymous function. So if this was wrapped in some way or anything, it would actually say that, and that it threw an error, it would tell you that the error occurred in select test result. If you just assign it to an object without that name, the function has no name, so therefore it's just going to show as it occurred at some point in time. So that's just a little, again, it's a little bit more long-winded, but it saved me on a number of times, so it's just easy to do. The other benefit of this, of course, is I can copy paste the entire function out of here and put it somewhere else, or put it into Explore and just run it. I don't need to do any kind of funky stuff with it because it's already done for me. So that is why I'm doing that. Okay, so we want to select the test result and integration ID. This is actually going to be much the same as what we have here, but let's go and do this anyway. So maybe we might want to keep process, although the process is not going to change, so the process will already have been selected. Do I have a list of integrate? Do I have an integration map in here? don't know if I do. Pretty hard to tell from here. So what I'm thinking is that I need to select the test result. Well, I need to select the integration, but the integration is contained within the processes. So do I want to loop through all the processes and find all the integrations? Not really. I just want to know that the process is here. So I could do, this is a really good point actually on just what to think about if you're designing an interface. And that is the URL. So at the moment you can't see the URL, but I'll copy it and bring it over here for you. So the URL for this, don't spell that, not that it matters, ServiceNow.com, unified test, and then we've got the process that's been selected, and integration is true for whatever reason, so we're selecting an integration there. You want people will bookmark the URL that you're on. So if you design everything to the point where the JavaScript is doing all the work for you and you're not updating the URL, then you're going to cause people pain because they can't bookmark where they've been. So especially important if you're building a single page app, make sure the URL reflects what the user's looking at, and that way they can bookmark it, they can come back to it, they can copy paste it in an email. Just being nice to people, you know. So don't just do JavaScript void on all your links and have some client function doing all the work for you. That's fine, but there you go. I think UI Builder is going to fix that as well. That seems to take care of all of that for you, although you can do it the other way as well. But it's definitely easier in Angular to just ignore the address bar altogether. Just be aware of that. Be nice to people. So on to what we're actually getting onto here. Remember where I was? In here. So what I was looking for here is what I'm actually passing back. So we're doing data, and all we're doing is doing the processes. So the reason I brought this up, by the way, is because I'm only selecting the process. So I need to have, if the user came to the URL and they just had the process, just had the integration and not the process in the URL, the app wouldn't be able to figure out which process it was, and so it's just going to fail. So the easy way for me to fix this is actually just say process equals c.process.sysid, and the integration equals that. And that way, that's always going to be the URL for the user. It would be ideal to say, actually, we'll determine the process off the integration, but I can't bother to do that. So this is what we're going to do for now. All right, so we're selecting the process, we're selecting the integration, we're selecting, that's good, so we're going to update that. We've then got our client script to select the process, and we're doing that first, and then we're going to select our test result. So we've got to find our integration first. So let's have a look through. Easiest way to do this, probably just to loop through the integrations. There probably is an easy way to do this, but I can't think of what it is right now. What do I want to call that? Just call that an L. Not ideal, but if L.thisID equals the integration ID that was being passed in. This is what, do you know what? This is why I hate this, because you can't exit a for each. It's going to do it for everything. So let's just be old school. And we're just going to go and find it that way. So if we don't have, we have I, but whatever. I might want to do drink that. So now I can just exit early as soon as I find it. I'm sure there's better ways of doing it, but that's decent enough for now. So we've got our integration. Now we want to look through and find our result, the last result from that. So C dot, what do we call it? Test result. C dot test result equals. But let's just confirm on the front end what this looks like. Here's our integration. We've got the sysid, so that's definitely going to work. And we've got a bunch of tests. So actually, we're basically we've got a number of tests in here. But these are the results again. So this is kind of interesting in the fact that, so the reason this is because you can have multiple tests for an integration. So I could have one scenario where it's testing kind of just the standard flow of an integration. I could have another scenario that's testing a specific error that occurred. And you can build up all these different kind of cases for your testing and have them all automated. So if you see a bug in production that you haven't seen before, create your test, export it to dev, run it, fix it, run your test. Is it fixed? Great. Now you've just got you've got that confirmation forever then. So we do need a little bit another leg in this, which again, like I say, we might redesign this, but there needs to be a third layer in here, which is basically the tests that are within the integration that you're looking at. So I think maybe this goes back to the process kind of view. So in actual fact, I actually want this to be the integration that's selected, not the test result. So this could get really hairy, but this is what I'm going to do for now. You could do this with kind of a view as well and say this is the view that we're doing, but we'll do this for now. So that there is an integration, there is no test result. And then up here, there is no c.integration and there is no c.test result. I probably would do want to switch that to a view, but I'm going to run with what I'm doing right now. So yeah, stick with that. Okay. So in actual fact, this is actually pointless. I can just do this, and this is going to be called select integration. All right, so that's there. Like I say, I think I might use the same view as the as up here. I just need this. And then I've got an integration. For this one, actually, we need to just watch that. So if loaded and there is no process, then I'm going to show that. If it's loaded and there is a process, there is no integration. Yeah, I think we only need, because we're not going to have a test result if we don't run integration, so that's fine. And that's fine. We're actually going to have a process always. We're going to have an integration, but we're not going to have a test result in this case. Like I said, this is probably not the best way to do it, but what we're doing for now. And what you can also do with these as well is create. I haven't got any in here at the moment, but you can create templates. So you could, have this kind of layout as a standard block that you can use and reuse everywhere, and then just call that and pass in the params. Do it that way, but I'm copy pasting because I'm prototyping. So for now, what I want to do is say we've got our integration. So within our integration, we've got our tests. So now let's loop through our test. So drink. So we've got for each test in integration dot tests, track by test.sysid. This track by is really useful if you're doing kind of updates. If we're using Record Watcher, for example, then you can use that to keep things in order and only update the things that have changed and all sorts of stuff. You don't necessarily need it all the time, but I think it is more efficient to use a track by, so stick with that. Right, and now we just need to update these. So don't think that is necessarily relevant, but we'll stick with it. So if that is, I don't need any of that. But it's just test, isn't it? So it's the test. And what have we got in the test at the moment? Description is null. We've got the name, then we've got description. That's cool. And then in here we can do, that's it. We've got an ng binding with nothing in it. So that's from our copy paste. So we could do ng bind. So this is doing an ng bind is the same as doing that. Essentially, I think that is right. There's another one if you're doing inputs. You can sort of bind the value of the input to a different field and things. Anyway, this is integration description. There is one. I don't think we care about any of this right now because we're obviously looking at the test itself. Then we've got the last result. And we've got the number failed. We probably want to have all of those numbers on here at some point. But let's just use the last result on there now. So total and passed and failed. Then we can do test.last result. And we obviously this is not going to work if there is no last result. So we'll want to put a use case indicator for that as well. So I was going to finish around about now, but I think I'll carry on and just finish this little bit here, just to close it off. We got failed. Yeah, total. So we can do, obviously I've got some basic styling essentially to make it, as you saw earlier, red or green if it passes. I think in this case we can literally say, yeah, it probably does still count. So if the failed, you don't necessarily want to do this a lot, by the way, because obviously this is being done on the fly. This is basically another thing that Angular is checking all the time. So if you're not interested in changing the values, you can do the double dots on that as well, and that will just write the class as is and free up the computer or the browser essentially, so it's not constantly churning over the same thing trying to find new data. In this case, yeah, I'll put it as cached because I can always unput it as cached. If I'm going to add in, what might be nice is if I'm watching the test result, it's going to auto update to the latest test result when I run the test, but we'll get to that another time. So greater than 0. But that technically is not, I can't remember if that is valid or not. Technically, I think that's the way you're supposed to do it, but or you can do it as a less than, but I think that's fine because it's inside an attribute. So failed is 0 and we've got success. If failed is not 0, that's the other way to do it. You can do it as a, you actually just leave it as that and say if it's anything. Do it as a boolean. Okay. Let's see if that works. Nice. That process still worked. Coming into there is good. Configure the integration. Did that not work? Let's click into here. Click into here. So that's changed the integration, but it hasn't updated interface. So that is probably because I'm not doing something quite right in here. What we can do here is just do a quick check. Well, first of all, let's go and check on here. So we have a look at our widget. Actually, what we can do is have a look at. We can log the controller. Oh, that's interesting. Should have looked at that first. So select integration. Can't select read property integrations of null. Well, that'll be why it's not doing it then. This is no, I don't. Let's just do that for now. No process. Okay. I'll come back to here. Integration is not defined. Line 45. Oh, debugging this kind of stuff is not fun. Oh, that's my hangover from doing my loop. So c.integrations I sysid equals integration, and I'm bet that. Okay. I think in this case, let the current process, I'm not doing anything weird, and that can go there. Can't we probably see how undefined? He's saying, James, stop. It's not going well. So integrations is not actually defined. Well, I know it is, but still a hangover. Okay, well, not a hangover. Gosh, that would be really bad. Hangover at 10 o'clock at night. Has anyone done that? Still cannot read that. And okay, let's step through this thing. Not working. So we can clear that. Oh, love that. Right, dashboard, log controller. Okay. got the process, we've got the integrations, integration 0, this ID. The Y is that not working, so I've selected the process. Property 0 of undefined. I've already assigned that, so that is correct. Integration. If in doubt, log it out. I think it's because I just had a singular there instead of a plural, and just it's brain lag time. That worked. Okay, sweet. That worked that time. If I refresh. Okay, so we've lost the integration in that refresh, but that's still working, so that's cool. Obviously need to update the breadcrumb as well. There's loads to do on this. I'm not going to get it all done today. Let's just see if we can get this to show up, and then I think we'll call it. We're not setting a test result. Test and integration dot test. Right in there, so we can see what we're dealing with. At the moment, there's nothing showing up. So it is trying to show that, but it's okay. So saying there's no tests in. I'm missing here. C is what I'm missing. Sweet. There we go. So I think we will leave it for there. We've kind of got the bare bones of something that kind of looks decent and will work for what we need it to. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Hope you found it helpful and useful and enjoyable, and yeah, I'm trying to do this. I am doing this every Thursday. Let me know if that time is not good, or if there's a better time that works for you. Everyone's got a better time, but the idea at the moment is just Thursdays work well for me. 8 o'clock is a pretty decent time for most people, me included. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and we'll figure something out to do again next week. So I'll see you then. Thanks for joining. Goodbye.